I'm Stephen Mayers, co-editor and compiler of the book Solito, Solita, Crossing Borders with Youth Refugees from Central America. Jonathan Friedman and I compiled and edited 15 narratives of youth migrants and refugees from Central America between the years 2014 and 2019. And today, as part of Voice of Witnesses read-a-thon, Read It Forward read-a-thon, I would like to share with you the story of Pedro. Pedro Hernandez, age at crossing 17, born Zununcap, Huehuetenango, Guatemala, interviewed in Chicago, Illinois. To meet Pedro, we travel from California to the heart of the American Midwest, Chicago. It's a rainy day in May 2016, and we take the L to South LaSalle Street. We ride the elevator to the offices of the Heartland Alliance's National Immigrant Justice Center, where social workers and lawyers are busy helping immigrants and refugees. In the Jane Addams conference room, a lawyer introduces us to Pedro, a young Guatemalan in his late teens. He shyly shakes our hands and sits down. Pedro is wearing clean but unpressed clothes. His black hair is neatly combed. His skin is sallow from lack of sunlight, and he has broad cheekbones and deep-set eyes. His eyes are red-rimmed with sleep deprivation. He just got off the night shift and has to go to school, and he yawns deeply and quickly covers his mouth. In Guatemala, many indigenous families struggle to survive through subsistence farming. Pedro's story highlights how many youth migrants bear the burden of paying off loans that their parents have borrowed, which come with exorbitant interest rates and also often require parents to put up their land as collateral in order to pay for their journeys. I was born badly. I come from the village of Zununcap in the province of Huehuetenango, Guatemala. My first language is the Mayan dialect called Chuj. My grandfather was a guerrilla fighter in the Guatemalan Civil War, and afterwards he settled in our village. My father worked in a cardamom factory a great distance away and didn't live with us. Because we were poor, very poor, my pregnant mother was forced to live with my father's brother and sister-in-law, who didn't like having to feed her. 11 people were crowded in a small dwelling without windows or a kitchen, just a communal sleeping area and a wood stove. My grandmother said my mother suffered a lot from hunger when she was pregnant with me. My uncle would hide all my mom's food and wouldn't leave any for her. I was born badly. On that day, the 16th of February, 1997, my mother was home alone and no one helped her. She couldn't take the pain. I just fell onto the ground when I was born. I don't know how many minutes passed before my grandmother picked me off the earthen floor, washed off the nastiness, and wrapped me in a blanket. The filth made the illness grow inside my mom. I was very weak. I couldn't move my right arm. I couldn't breathe. We didn't have food or anything. No doctor, nothing. I was always naked as a baby. I didn't have any clothes, just a sheet. My grandmother bought me my first shirt and pants when I was 3. Kill that kid. That was around the same time our family moved to Playa Grande, where my father worked at a palm oil processing factory called Ixchan. I remember there was a big river nearby. My mom said that I had a problem with my hips. I didn't have the strength to stand up. I couldn't walk. I just moved around the floor. I don't know what illness I had. My family would have taken me to the doctor, but we didn't have money. When I went back to my village at age 4, I still couldn't walk. My aunt told my father I wasn't good for anything. She asked, "Who will help you when you're old? What will you get out of him? Kill that kid." She lent my father a pistol to kill me. He agreed. He said, "Give me the pistol. What am I going to do with this kid? How can he help me in the future? What is he good for?" My grandmother overheard and begged, "Why would you kill him? Pedro is a gift from God. He's not doing anything against you. It's wrong to kill him. I will call the police and have you sent to jail." She saved me. My mom took care of me when I was a sick child. She never left me alone in the house. She always took me with her wherever she went. She didn't want anyone to hurt me or kill me. My mom is my most beloved person. I am the oldest son. I have 4 siblings, 2 brothers and 2 sisters. My younger sister and brother were born when I was in Guatemala. My youngest brother and sister were born after I left home and came to America. I've never met them. Around age 5, I got stronger and started to walk. At age 6, I was put in primary school. I didn't have notebooks. I used crayons to write. My dad didn't support me at all. He didn't buy me anything for school, nothing, not even clothes. When I finished 6th grade, he took me out of school to work in the fields. Back then, our village was small, just 15 or 20 people. When I was growing up, we followed all the Maya customs. We used traditional medicines. Our people planted herbs to use when they became sick. But when it's a serious illness, you need to go to a doctor. But no one has money for a hospital, and our government doesn't assist us at all. There's a hospital in another town, but you have to pay everything up front. An even worse problem is that you have to walk for 15 to 20 minutes to reach the road and then take transportation to the hospital. If someone is sick or dying, you have to carry them to the main road. It's very difficult living like that. If you're dying, that's it. No permanent work for people. I was 10 years old when I started to work in the fields. In Guatemala, almost all kids are working by the time they are 7 or 8. The boys with their dads in the fields, the girls with their moms in the kitchens. On a typical day, I got up at 6 in the morning to get to school by 8. It was far away and there weren't any buses. Sometimes it was raining, lots of mud. Class would end at 1:30 in the afternoon. After walking back home, I'd either go to work again with my dad or I'd gather firewood with my mom, cutting wood with a hatchet and then carrying heavy loads on our backs for a long way. I never had a good day. When I was 12 years old, I was already looking for jobs on my own. I'd do odd jobs. When I began working, I only earned about 15 quetzales, about $2 US. But when I was older and stronger, I earned 25 quetzales. I planted corn, wheat, and beans. I used machetes and hoes. I would go to work on Saturdays and Sundays to earn some money to buy food for my mom and myself. Because my mom had no way of making money, I worried about her. My father owned a small plot of land, about 1 cuerda, roughly 1 acre. But the people who own land are not rich. Most have 2 or 3 acres. They hire hands for a few days to harvest crops, but there's no permanent work for people, even those with land. Los nudos. The tough kids in my village hung out in a gang called Los Nudos. My friends asked me if I would join. I said, not me, because I wanted to be a regular guy with no problems with anyone. I never wanted to harm people, to rob or kill. 3 times they asked, and I told them no each time. They asked, so you aren't going to join us? They threatened me, saying, you'll see what we're going to do to you. Some time passed. One dark night, I was walking from church to my grandfather's. I passed a rundown building, and then I ran into the gang. Some of them I knew, others were strangers. They asked me, where are you going? And demanded money. I told them, no, I don't have anything. They started to punch me. I only had 50 quetzales, about $7, and they took it from me. They slashed my hand with a knife and left me. It bled a lot, but when I got to the house, my dad said, it's okay, son, don't worry about that. That's how they are. We can't do anything. To them, nothing, because there are so many of them. He was right, because there weren't any cops in our village. There was no one to help us. Then he said, I'm very sorry. My father put alcohol on my bloody wound, that's all. This happened when I was around 15 years old. If you look at my hand now, you can still see the scar. When I was 17 years old, those were very difficult times. We worked all the time, but bad weather and pests killed our corn harvest. We had nothing to eat. My dad was desperate. He said, son, you can go to the United States and help us. I looked down at the ground. I was surprised and afraid. Then my dad said, okay, you're a miner. We know that. But the majority of people who go there are also miners. They go out of necessity. I looked at him in the eye and said, it's okay, I will go. But we didn't have money to pay a coyote to take me on the journey. It cost a lot. I didn't know where my father could get the money. But on May 9, 2014, he told me, I found the money. I said, you're joking with me. He said, no, seriously, you were going to the United States. I never thought that one day I would come here. I was scared because people die on the way, riding on the beast, which crushes their legs, their arms, and sometimes even kills them. Okay, I'm going, I told my father, but I was thinking to myself, I hope that God is with me. If I am going to make it there, okay, that's good, but it's all luck. If not, I said, I am going to leave here to work to help you all so that I can change your lives a little bit, so that you don't have to continue suffering. For 3 months before leaving, I had stomach illness. I'd gone without eating anything or sleeping, and I couldn't work. But 2 days before I was to leave, the sickness stopped, and I felt well. I left around the end of May. I don't remember the exact date. My mother hugged me, crying. She said, take care of yourself, son. I hope we will see each other again here, alive, and that you will not be hurt or die. Remember us. Don't ever forget how we are living here, how no one helps us with our situation. You're just a child, and I'm very sorry for sending you off to that country because of our problems, because of our poverty. One day, you will help other people too, those who need it. One day, we will see each other again, God willing. I cried too. It wasn't like I was leaving for 1 or 2 days, but for years. I could have an accident on the way. I told them, take good care of yourselves. I will never forget you all, never. You will always stay on my mind because you guys are my greatest love in the world. Thank you for everything and take care of yourselves. One day we will see each other again. We will hug each other like this again. I left them in Huehuetenango. If we don't pay, they could kill me. Near the Guatemala-Mexico border, I met up with my guide and 12 travelers from Ecuador. I was the only one who came alone. I didn't have anyone else who shared my Maya roots. My Guatemalan guide was a good man, but it was really hard for me because I didn't speak Spanish back then. We crossed the border to Mexico. The guide said it was dangerous for us to travel in a group. If we came together, Mexican immigration police could catch us and we'd have to go back to Guatemala. He had us go 2 by 2 so we wouldn't be alone. And we walked all day and met a group at night. One day I got separated from my partner and got lost. Luckily, I reached the hotel and found them again. He sent us out again every day or two, depending on the path. We only saw our guide at hotels where we were all together at night. I had to be brave and resourceful to overcome hunger and fatigue. We didn't have money to buy food. I walked with fear about what would happen on my journey. We rode on buses, enduring days of hunger and sleepless nights, worrying what would happen. We traveled west and onto Mexico City and northward without being harassed by the Mexican police or gangs. Finally, after many days, we reached a hideaway in Nuevo Laredo, Mexico, near the US border. 70 people were crowded together. It was very hot, and I had to breathe deeply to stand the heat. Some people had been stuck there for 2 or 3 months. They couldn't leave because they didn't have sponsors, no one to send them money. The guide's boss told me, "You've arrived here already by your destiny. Give us all the money we want." I called my dad in Guatemala and said, "There are no beds, just one bedroom in the hideaway for 70 people. I can't stand it here because of the heat and hunger. The boss is asking for money. Please transfer money to the bank here so they'll let me out. If we don't pay, they could kill me. Please hurry." After he deposited the money, 4,000 quetzales, about 540 US dollars in the bank, I was released. The guide led us through the desert until we reached the Rio Bravo on the Texas border. At 3 in the afternoon, I crossed the river in an inflatable raft. 30 minutes after reaching the other side, the US immigration agents caught us. We tried to escape, but they had helicopters, dogs, and guns. I didn't know if they would kill me. They shouted, "Stop," and grabbed me. I was scared that they would shoot me. I thought, what else can I do? Nothing, so I let them take me, telling myself, it's okay. La Hielera. The US immigration police herded us into cars and drove us to La Hielera, the freezer. It was very cold and they didn't care about anything there. The guards were really bad. I was in a room with 180 young guys suffering because of the cold. There was hardly anything to eat, just an apple, a small burrito, and a bottle of water for each of us a day. We weren't allowed to bathe. We didn't have beds, so we had to lay on the dirty floor with garbage and food. The guards didn't let us sleep at all, not even for a second. I suffered for 6 days and 6 nights without sleeping, and it made me feel sick. In another freezing cold room, there were mothers who were suffering with their children, 5 years old, 2 years old, even 7 or 8 months old. I don't know how they didn't die. I was eventually taken to a house for unaccompanied minors in Harlingen, Texas. I was there for 2 weeks. They treated us well. They let us bathe and gave us food, clothing. I was learning English and studying, but I couldn't stay there. Next, they sent me to San Antonio, Texas. We had a very long trip, 6 hours by bus. We arrived at a large detention house for minors. There were around 1,000 young people locked up there. I was able to call home to my parents. They cried, and I did as well. "I'm happy to hear your voice, to know that you're alive," my mother said. "We didn't know if you were alive or dead. We could barely eat or sleep. Thank God that you are okay." I got to speak with them for 15 minutes twice a week. We had beds, we had food, everything was good. I liked it there. I spent 2 months there waiting for someone to get me out. I called my cousin in Mississippi and I told him I was in youth detention. I asked him, would you be my sponsor? La Migra asked him for all his information, documents. He told them no, that he didn't want to have a problem with La Migra. Well, what could I do? I spent some hours talking with my dad in Guatemala, and I had to find another sponsor in the United States. My dad sought help, but no one wanted to help me. I had to stay in the detention house because no one could get me out. After 2 months, my name was called. 70 of us left in the morning. 30 went with me, and the others went to another state. We went at 3 in the morning to be on the plane at 6 exactly. The plane took off from San Antonio for Chicago. That's how they told us where we were going. I asked myself, what can we do? We are under their control. They took us to the Sears Detention Center here in Chicago. If you feel lost, alone, I still feel lost, alone, and powerless. I still felt lost, alone, and powerless. You aren't free to do anything you want. You can't go out or leave your room or go for a walk or anything. I thought, I came here for a good life and I'm in jail. I didn't know how long I was going to stay there. I always wondered because I spent a lot of time locked up. I was bored doing the same things all day, every day. We were locked up like that for 8 months. My stomach problems came back. While I was there, I got help from lawyers and social workers. My lawyer visited me at the house on my 18th birthday. I'd become an adult, so I couldn't stay in youth detention any longer. I told him everything. After that, my social worker and another social worker named Marissa got me into the program at the Young Center. I didn't feel alone because I have people to help me and I owe them everything. I don't feel alone because I have people to help me and I owe them everything. It's almost like family. School started 2 weeks ago. I feel happy to live here. We have everything, clothes, food. The people who run the house look after us if we are sick or have something going on. People help us here in ways that people in my village never have seen before. Packing meatballs. I'm 19 years old now. I live in Hyde Park, Chicago. I've lived here for a year and 3 months and I'm very happy. It's a whole other thing to live here compared to where I was before because I'm free and I have everything, food, a bed, and people who support me. I'm going to school to get my GED. I'm attending Truman College. I go there every day. I study in the mornings between 8:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. I'm studying science, math, English, and Spanish. In the afternoon, I go to another class to learn English because that's very important. Now, I'm working at a factory where they make sausages, meatballs, and hamburgers. My boss doesn't speak Spanish, but my coworkers do, and that's how I'm learning. I'm a machine operator for packing meatballs. This is how it works. First, they grind the meat, and then they put it in another machine, and meatballs come out. Then they go into the oven. Afterwards, they go into the freezer so that the meat does not go bad. The machine I work on puts the meatballs inside bags that come out as sealed packages. You watch the temperature, make sure the meat doesn't stick, and adjust the settings on the computer. Then other people pack the product for shipping. I'm proud that I found the job myself. I've worked there for a month and a half now. I send money home to my family in Guatemala via Western Union. I start work at 4:30 p.m. and leave at 12:30 a.m. Since I don't have a car, I go everywhere by bus or train. During the day, I study, and in the evening, I work. I only get to sleep about 3 hours a day. On Sundays, I catch up on sleep, walk through the park, and look at the beautiful lake. I have a lot of friends. We are like family at my group home. I also have a lot of friends at school. At work, we're already friends. There aren't any problems. We just do our jobs. I am very happy here. The debt is growing so much. Let me talk about the debt hanging over me. I think it's very important that people understand how difficult it is for migrants to borrow money to come here. It goes like this. I borrow money from someone so that I can travel to Mexico. My dad gave the deed to his land to the money lenders. The two men we borrowed the money from are our neighbors. We call them our cousins. They made an agreement with my dad. I wasn't a part of it, and I didn't know the terms, but I'm responsible for paying back the loan. I'm trying to find a way to do that because I owe a lot of money. And if I don't pay it back, the man will take my dad's land because he already has his deed. The lender has the right to go to the mayor or the police and say that he owns my father's land. That's why we can't do anything. I don't really know how much money I owe. The principal on the money is 50,000 quetzales, about 7,000 US dollars. And I owe 15% interest every month, about $450. That's why the debt is growing so much. And I have to find a way to pay it back soon so it doesn't grow more. Now, I can only send $500 a month, which is like 4,000 quetzales there. I have to pay off everything, the capital and interest, to cancel the loan. Then the lender will sign saying that yes, the loan is paid back, and then the deed will be returned to my dad. The lender asked for the money the whole time I was in detention. After I got out, I told him that I didn't have a job here yet. He knew that I was in school, and even though he said that it was okay, take your time, he kept demanding the money and threatening, I'm going to take your dad's land. I would tell him, I'm going to pay back everything, but I don't have a job yet. I spoke to the lender recently. I told him, don't worry, I have started to work. I'm going to begin paying back your money little by little. He said, okay, that's fine. I'm going to pay everything completely, the interest and the capital, everything clean, and that's it. So then my dad will get the deed back and have his land again. He'll be free and I'll be free, all the way free. Then I'll be able to send money to my village, to my family, and do other things that I want to do. I'd like to continue my studies and graduate. After graduating, I'd like to go to a university. My goal is to become a doctor. I've always wanted to be one ever since I was ill as a child in Guatemala, and doctors gave me medicines and vaccines and I got better. I've decided to become a doctor in order to help people like me. I have dreams and one day having a family and children, but I'm not ready for that kind of responsibility. And what I want most is to continue studying and pursuing my career, and maybe I'll have a partner later on. I also want to build a house in my village so that my dad and mom can live there, so that they can have some money to start a store and sell things like food, building materials, clothing, and shoes. I want to make change in my village. To do this, I need to save money, not spend it drinking or smoking. I've never drank or smoked. I don't even want to have a vice. I want to do important things for our future. I want to save up money to be able to buy a car and put money together to give it to my family. I hope that one day I will return to my family so we can live together. I can find a good job and work hard so I can have a good future, live happily, and be free. But I'm not free now. I have a great debt to pay. That's why I'm worried. I hope to God it will end well. We catch up with Pedro by phone in Chicago about a year and a half later in the summer of 2017. One day, I won my asylum case about 3 months ago. I have to wait 9 more months to apply for my green card, my permanent residency. I can apply for a US passport in 5 years. Once I get my passport, I can travel to other countries, but not Guatemala, since I'm not safe there. I can apply to visit my family there once I get the passport, and can also apply to sponsor my brother and sister to come live here. My brother wants to come live here, but I don't want him to come yet because I suffered so much on my voyage and during my first years here. My dad paid the coyote half the money up front. And then when we were ready to cross the border into the United States, he sent the other half. As I told you before, on top of the capital, we are charged 15% per month for that loan. Now that I have been working, I finished paying off the 50,000 quetzal principal and have just started to pay off the interest. When we have almost 200,000 quetzales in interest, and I've paid about 20,000 quetzales of it so far. Now that the principal is paid off, the amount I owe is not growing at all. So I'm sending whatever I can. I can pay about $500 a month for the debt, aside from the money I send to my family to live. I really don't know how many years it will take me to pay off the debt entirely. I make almost $2,000 a month. The saving grace is that I don't have to pay rent. I live in a boarding house for migrants and orphans, and I only have to pay for my food. Pretty soon, I have to start paying rent, though. My dad gets frustrated sometimes and doesn't understand why I can't send more, but I tell him, Senor, I am working, but it's not easy to make money. One of the men we borrowed money from is always asking about the money, and the other isn't as much. One understands my situation and the other doesn't. One says, you can only send me what you can, and the other says, pay me back more quickly. Besides my dad possibly losing his land, the lenders could get angry and hurt my family. I worry, what if I get sick and can't work? Or what if I lose my job and can't find work? I'm studying here at Truman College, which is free. When I feel ready to take the entrance exams to transfer to the university, I can do that. Truthfully though, I don't know how I can go to the university. Right now, I have to work full-time in order to live and send money. I'm 20 now. I really appreciate the opportunity to live here, to work. One day, I'm going to reach my goals and be an important person. I want to help people in my life. I didn't come here with my eyes closed. I've seen the suffering in the world. God has a plan for me. I want to work hard so that one day my family, my parents, can be proud of me and say, thank you, son, for fighting for us. You were a good son. I want to hug them one day and have my family here. Thank you.